With the PR disaster that is the Order 1886 in recent memory, a lot of discussion of game length has come about in the game's media. Some are advocating shorter games due to them having other responsibilities. Others are crucifying shorter games for being a bad money investment. To be perfectly honest, a game's length isn't a huge issue for me. I personally put value on the gameplay. Game's price is only going to decrease as time goes on, but a game's mechanics will be eternal. My first playthrough of Metal Gear Rising was 6 hours long, but the game was so enjoyable I didn't actually have any issues with its length. That's not to say I don't think a game's length isn't important. The consumer has every right to make choices based on value. That being said, the Order 1886 story-driven design philosophy prevented them from adding any extra features at low cost. Oftentimes, shorter games have extra features based on existing assets. A good example of this is challenge modes featured in action games like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. In these modes, players are put into unique enemy scenarios. Instead of creating brand new assets for new features, developers can already capitalize on the work they've already done. This has the added benefit of enabling the developer to focus on other aspects. This is a cost-effective way of adding more value to a game. A whole video could be made on features like these. This video isn't about this though. The game design itself can offer incentives for multiple playthroughs. Dead Rising was developed by Capcom and released on the Xbox 360 on August 9, 2006. In Dead Rising, Frank West has 72 hours to investigate the zombie apocalypse at Willamette Mall. These 72 hours are completely represented in the game. Including the overtime mode, the whole campaign is exactly 8 hours. Each in-game day translates to about 2 real-life hours. Dead Rising has a time limit for every single mission in the game. If you fail a mission, the player has the option to restart a playthrough. Dead Rising isn't a game you just play once. The design of Dead Rising promotes abandoning and starting playthroughs. At first, starting a new playthrough seems like a bad idea, but Dead Rising rewards this. As you unlock levels, you'll obtain upgrades, abilities, and costumes that all carry over to the new playthrough. This key detail adds so much replayability and gives the player a huge amount of freedom. If the player wanted to grind out to level 50, he's absolutely free to do so at any time. At any given point, the player can decide to fail the next story objective and pursue anything they want to. As I mentioned earlier, each mission has a strict time limit. As the player repeats missions, he's more likely to become more skillful. Each repeated playthrough allows the story missions to be completed much more efficient. This gives more time for side quests and exploration. Since the game is incredibly short, the player isn't losing too much progress with each reset. Even in the unlikely situation a player finishes their first playthrough on their first try, there's still plenty of characters, bosses, side quests, and unlockables to see. The short story mode only entices the player to jump back in and explore the game. Another key aspect in Dead Rising's replayability is its achievements. In 2006, developers were still experimenting with achievements, but Dead Rising was one of the first games to really nail them. Since playthroughs can be easily dropped anytime with little punishment, the player is encouraged to complete these. In addition, the amount of freedom given to the player really lets them experiment. I had several playthroughs dedicated to completing various achievements. The game doesn't necessarily force the player to do any of these, but highly encourages them through its gameplay systems. Shorter games don't necessarily have to be a bad value. With good planning and design, a game could offer multiple hours of play. Having a shorter game designed around replaying its campaign is a design choice that could be experimented with much more. Dead Rising nailed this kind of design, but I can't help but feel like it's been almost non-existent in AAA development since. I think this type of campaign design has tons of potential to be used in several ways. It's a shame that this type of mechanic didn't really catch on.